The record that the Portland Trailblazers have amassed during their time in the National Basketball Association has been nothing short of eventful. From the golden era of the Blazers with championship-level excellence on the part of Bill Walton to Clyde Drexler's unforgettable battles with Michael Jordan in the early 90s. In spite of all of this, leaving aside Bill Walton's iteration of the Blazers, the legacy of the Trailblazers has always been characterized as one that was so close to greatness only to inevitably fall short when it counted the most. Historic disasters like the drafting of players like Sam Bowie and Greg Oden over all-time talents like Michael Jordan and Kevin Durant, the loss of great players like Lamarcus, Aldridge, and Brandon Roy to free agency and injuries, not to mention their playoff meltdowns in the early 2000s and mid-2010s. With early regular season troubles, many expected the Blazers to bow out of the season, but the team with incredible mid-season acquisitions like Carmelo Anthony, surprising contributions from players like Gary Trent Jr., and a whole lot of effort from Dame Dollar himself now seem likely to give the championship favorite Lakers a run for their money. This, however, should not have been a surprise. Let's look at some of the reasons why the Blazers are the most dangerous team in the 2020 playoffs. Veteran talent. The first reason what makes the Blazers so dangerous is by far the easiest to explain. It's simply because their roster is filled with tried and tested, playoff-ready contributors. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum aside, the Blazers are also home to others like 10-time All-Star Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, a key piece of the very successful Houston teams of the past, as well as Hassan Whiteside, a player who tasted his fair share of personal success on the Miami Heat, one of the more accomplished franchises in the league. Leaving aside their varying levels of success, each of them have been major contributors in teams that were either considered outright title contenders or at the least solid regular season performers. All of them have legitimate experience in the league and in all likelihood would be stable contributors when need be. Matchups are key in the playoffs, thus it makes sense that having stable contributors would be key to any team trying to make its mark. Misleading seating. The Blazers are proof that the playoff seeding doesn't exactly indicate talent levels of the teams involved. A large part of the initial poor performance of the Blazers was a consequence of injury troubles with certain key contributors like Jusuf Nurkic, who was an important part of the Blazers' pick-and-roll combo with Damian Lillard, which constituted a very large part of their offense. This means that although the rankings would have you believe that the Blazers are one of the worst playoff teams to come out of the West, they may not be as bad as the seeding seems to portray to many. The historic 1999 playoff performance by the New York Knicks showcasing that such a result isn't that far from reality. Surprising contributions. The Portland Trailblazers have showcased surprising contributions of individuals who were initially considered total non-factors. Gary Trent Jr., the Duke alum being written off the previous year after a disappointing rookie season, is a perfect example of this. His performance in the bubble has, however, brushed off any such notions about him, with him making immense contributions in terms of spacing and scoring from the three-point line. The main knock on him was his inability to create offense off the ball, a burden that with players like CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard seems to have become non-existent. This increasing role in the lineup and improving performance overall are proof of this. Spacing will play an important role in Trent Jr.'s continued growth. Thankfully, he also happens to be surrounded by two of the deadliest three-point shooters in the league with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, keeping the defense off him, letting him do what he does best: shoot the ball. The bubble quotient. One of the main reasons a lot of people didn't have the Blazers as potential contenders was because of the individualistic focus of their team. Similar to James Harden's initial years in Houston and Westbrook's MVP season with the Thunder, many speculated that a system like the Blazers that needed one person to carry such a massive scoring load would fail to lead to playoff success due to the player in question gassing out before the actual start of the playoffs. The NBA season is, after all, one of the longer and more physically taxing seasons in professional sports. This could have, for the largest part, been true, if not for the special circumstances of this season. The pandemic and resultant break it gave the players has effectively given Damian Lillard the time needed to recover physically, only to come back to the bubble all the more ready to wreak havoc. This applies not only to Damian Lillard, but other pieces on the roster as well. The wear and tear associated with the long regular season plays a very important role in roster determination. It is one of the reasons many well-made teams adopt a mix of youth and veteran talent. The lack of elite young talent has truly been eliminated as a factor of relevance, and this can truly be attributed only to the bubble quotient. Matchup basketball. With the first set of playoff series having already begun, we can for a large part find out the competition the Blazers would have to go up against, assuming they were to make a deep playoff run in the 2020 season. Their first round is against the Los Angeles Lakers, and assuming that they make it through, shall follow up with the winners of the Houston Rockets OKC Thunder series. The playoffs, as many veterans would attest to, are determined by matchups and adjustments late in the game. The Lakers are, simply, not a good matchup for the Blazers, considering their focus on the front court and the recent spacing issues they have faced in the bubble. The Trailblazers, on the other hand, boast an elite offensive roster that can score against some of the best defenses in the league. Similar remarks can be made about the Thunder as well, due to their lack for elite talent. They would not have the scoring capacity necessary to beat the Blazers. This leaves the Rockets, who, similar to the Blazers, have experienced the benefits of the break the pandemic has brought them, as the only team that has the offense capability to compete with the Blazers. The Blazers also happen to hold one of the more distinguished clutch shooters in Damian Lillard, which could make a close game very costly option to their opponents. The Portland-Oklahoma series from the 2019 season being the perfect example of a star-studded team being taken down by one well-timed shot. This does not mean that the Blazers are a shoo-in to beat the Lakers or any of the other teams that have been mentioned for that matter. It does, however, mean that the Trailblazers have a shot, and a very good one at that, to make a deep playoff run. A shot to make history, and that makes them, without a doubt, the most dangerous team in the bubble this season. Which team do you think should everyone be on the lookout for? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.